Have you ever reached a point where every path forward seemed sealed shut, where every plan you made quietly fell apart, and every reason to keep going felt like it had slipped through your hands, yet somehow a small voice inside you refused to disappear? Today, I want to share a story with you. Not about someone extraordinary, not about someone who had all the answers, but about someone who almost gave up, and didn't. This is the story of Ethan. If you are carrying something heavy right now, stay with me. Somewhere in this story, you might find a piece of yourself. Ethan grew up in a quiet suburb just outside Chicago, the kind of place where life felt predictable in the best way. Saturday mornings meant grass-stained clothes, neighbors calling across fences, and the distant sound of kids chasing a ball down the street. Inside his home, there was structure, but more importantly, there was warmth. His father was a long-haul truck driver. He spent days on the road, sometimes weeks, yet he never missed what mattered. Soccer games, school presentations, late nights before exams, he was always there when it counted. And every night before bed, he would pause at Ethan's door and say, "No matter how dark it gets, the sun always rises for those who keep looking." At the time, it felt like just another sentence. Something fathers say. Something you don't realize you'll need, until one day, you do. Ethan was the oldest of three, and responsibility came early. But so did purpose. He loved architecture, not just buildings, but what they represented. Safety. Belonging. A place where life could happen. He would spend hours sketching homes, not perfect ones, but real ones. Homes where families stayed. Homes where nothing fell apart. For a long time, his world didn't. Until his second year of university, when everything changed. The call came on a Tuesday afternoon. Short, unclear, urgent. His father had been diagnosed with aggressive cancer. Everything after that felt like it moved too fast and not at all. Hospital visits blurred together. Machines replaced conversations. Bills began to pile up quietly, then loudly. His mother withdrew under the weight of it all, not cold, just overwhelmed. The house that once felt full became quiet in a way Ethan had never known. Friends stopped coming around. Not because they didn't care, but because they didn't know how to. And slowly, Ethan stopped knowing how to speak too. The night his father passed, the room was still. Too still. Ethan held his hand, waiting for something, anything, to change. But nothing did. No final speech. No dramatic moment. Just silence. And a life that no longer had the shape it once did. He left university 2 weeks later. Not because he wanted to, but because continuing felt meaningless. The sketches stopped. The future he once saw so clearly disappeared. The next 3 years didn't feel like years. They felt like survival. Ethan moved into a small apartment on the edge of the city. He worked nights stocking shelves and spent his days delivering packages. Sleep became optional. Thinking became unavoidable. Every morning, the same question waited for him: what's the point? People noticed him less. Or maybe he just stopped being visible. Old friends crossed the street. Conversations turned into nods, then into nothing at all. There is a kind of loneliness that doesn't come from being alone. It comes from feeling like no one can reach where you are. Ethan lived there. One winter night, everything came close to breaking. He was soaked from the rain, exhausted beyond words, and he found himself sitting on the steps of a small church. Not to pray, just to sit. He looked up at the empty sky and said something out loud, something most people only think: if something is out there, why did you take everything? No answer came. Just silence. Weeks later, he found himself standing on a bridge at the edge of town. The kind of place people don't go unless they're searching for something final. The air was cold, sharp against his skin. The river below moved steadily, like it knew exactly where it was going. Ethan didn't. His hands tightened around the freezing metal railing. For a moment, everything went quiet, not peaceful, just empty. And then, a memory surfaced. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just there. His father's voice. No matter how dark it gets, the sun always rises for those who keep looking. Ethan closed his eyes. For the first time in years, he didn't feel strong. He felt tired. But something changed. Not everything. Just enough. He stepped back. That moment didn't fix his life. It didn't erase the pain. But it gave him something he hadn't had in a long time, one more day. And sometimes, one more day is enough to begin again. Change didn't happen overnight. There was no sudden clarity, no instant purpose. Just small decisions. Ethan started helping out at a local youth center. At first, he barely spoke. He just showed up, sat nearby, and listened. That's where he met Marcus. 14 years old. Quiet. Watchful. Carrying his own kind of loss. One afternoon, Marcus asked him, "Does it ever stop hurting?" Ethan paused before answering. Then he said, "Honestly, no, but you learn how to carry it." That moment stayed with both of them. For the first time since his father died, Ethan felt useful. Not fixed, not healed, but needed. He began studying again at night. Borrowed books, free online lectures, whatever he could find. Progress was slow. Doubt returned often. The pain never fully left. But every night, before he slept, he wrote one sentence in a notebook: "Tomorrow can still be better than today." Opportunity didn't arrive loudly. It came quietly, through someone who remembered his father. A professor who saw something in Ethan he had forgotten in himself. Support was offered, not out of pity, but out of belief. Ethan returned to university. This time, he didn't rush. He built slowly, carefully, one step at a time. And eventually, he graduated with top honors. Not because life became easy, but because he didn't stop. Years later, Ethan stood in front of a group of young men, many of them carrying stories that looked a lot like his. Lost. Quiet. Holding more than they could explain. He told them something simple, something he had learned the hard way. Belief isn't pretending the pain isn't there. It's choosing to keep moving anyway. Today, Ethan helps others rebuild their lives. Marcus is one of them, now studying engineering, guided by the same steady presence he once needed. And every morning, Ethan still opens his notebook and writes the same sentence: "Tomorrow can still be better than today." Maybe that's where it begins. Not with certainty. Not with strength. But with a choice. If this story stayed with you, leave a single word in the comments that describes how you feel right now. Share this with someone who might need it. And if these stories matter to you, subscribe to Whispers of Life by Nagaram for more. Because sometimes, a quiet voice is all it takes to keep going. No matter how long the night feels, the sun still rises. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe.